this reported trade. It's not official yet, but, the parameters are in place, and it looks like Chris Paul is heading to the Bay Area to become a member of the Golden State Warriors. Kendra, good morning. Did you get any rest? How long did you write? What's happening?
I slept so good, Bonte. I was passed out. But it was good seeing you last night. I really liked you were rocking the comfy sweatsuit. Very jealous of that fit. Big fan of that.
Yeah, no, I had to feel comfortable, man. We rock suits
and
we try to dress up.
Honestly.
Yeah, Chase Center is our home. We're always living there. We're there 41 times a year and many, many more times for practice and shoot-arounds and all that stuff. So, as you walked into Chase Center yesterday thinking about what went down, it was obvious that Jordan Poole and Draymond Green were probably not going to be able to work together. We get the financial flexibility. But, boy, what does your timeline look like when it comes to Dub Nation and welcoming Chris Paul to the Bay Area?
It's something that, look, were they going to have conversations with Chris Paul to see if something was there? Yes. Was this the way I expected the trade to happen? No, not necessarily. And, I grew up in the Bay Area. I remember the days of the Warriors and the Clippers being that big rivalry, and Chris Paul probably being the most disliked athlete in the Bay Area, pre-LeBron James days, pre-Warriors Cavs rivalry days. So I think from that standpoint, for a lot of fans, it may be weird or interesting to see. The other thing that I think about with Chris Paul is just the age factor. The thing with Jordan Poole, he was an Ironman. He played all 82 games for this team. Chris Paul has missed at least big chunks of the playoffs for the last several years due to different injuries and stuff. And so that's kind of where my brain goes at when I think of Chris Paul really being with this team. I think he's, a great player, a great playmaker. The Warriors have wanted to find secondary playmaking for a while. I just kind of think of his durability and how much he'll actually be able to play as the Warriors hope to make another finals run.
Can him and Draymond play on the court together offensively?
That's a good question. Obviously, they're both very ball-dominant players, like to have the ball in their hand at the same time. They take on different roles. But again, I think I'm not going to say no, they can't, because again, the Warriors have been looking for another facilitating guard for a while. That's something that they wanted Jordan Poole to take on. That's something that they wanted Dante DiVincenzo to take on. So it's something that, regardless of who it is, they need to have it. They feel like they have a really good one, an experienced one, and Chris Paul, that when Draymond isn't on the floor, when Steph isn't on the floor, when he's with presumably younger guys, because that's what the rest of their roster is shaping up to look like, they have a floor general that they can trust, who they can depend on, and that's Chris Paul right now.
Kendra Andrews here on the Morning Roast on 95.7 The Game, does a terrific job for ESPN covering the Golden State Warriors and up-and-coming journalist, of course. Kendra, we think about Jordan Poole and the way last season went. Do you think he will embrace a change of scenery out there in the nation's capital?
Yes, I 100% yes. I hope that a fresh start is what he needs, right, to take that next step, to be the version of the player that he was 2 seasons ago, because I just think that there was a lot going on here. And it does all come back to the incident with Draymond Green. And I know a lot of people like to say and like to think, you guys, reporters are making too big of a deal of that. Everyone moved on. No, they didn't. Steve Kerr sat up at the podium at the end of the season and said that lingered. That was the biggest crisis. He said it at the time, and it lingered. I'm not going to get into all the specifics of what Jordan was particularly feeling, but I do think that a change of scenery, a change of, teammates, just a change of people that he's around could be good. And what exactly the Wizards are doing right now, I have no clue how this rebuild that they're doing is very interesting, the way that they're doing it. But, you'd hope that he has the right people around him out in Washington and can at least just use this, if not building a career for himself, a stepping stone to get to wherever the right home for him is.
Well, you referenced rebuild for Washington. It does feel like the Warriors are like redoing or resetting a lot of the moves that they've made over the last couple of years. I mean, just again, zoom out, big picture, considering all the movement that's happened. Poole is one element of it, but like PBJ, Rollins, there's a lot. It does feel like to immediately move some of these people, there's a financial component. And then there's like we just didn't like the guys that you were selecting component. So how do you break down some of these other moves that are around the JP move?
I think what the Warriors want to do, right? We've been talking for so long about, probably since JK and Moses were drafted, we've been talking about this 2 timeline, right? Win now, win in the future. Okay. They won 2 years ago in what year is it? 2021, right? Yeah, that was 2022. Don't know what year it is. They won 2 seasons ago. Okay, didn't work this last year. And I think the Warriors are realizing, look, we have X amount of good years of Steph left. Draymond, fingers crossed he comes back. Clay, yes, he played very well last season, but how much time, right? And whatever's going on with his contract, with him becoming a free agent next offseason, the Warriors are in win-now mode. I believe that moving JP and bringing a guy like Chris Paul back, like you said, yes, financially, yes, the parties weren't getting along. They needed to make a move. But then you see them, like you said, trading PBJ, who in my opinion was someone who played well in his small doses last season and could have continued to develop. The Warriors are realizing they don't have the time and they don't have the resources right now to give these young guys all that time to develop, to have this second timeline. So they're trying to get pieces that win right now. Look, what that means for a guy like Jonathan Kuminga or Moses Moody, even the new draft picks, I don't know what that necessarily means for them, but I think we're going to be seeing the Warriors make moves that they feel will help them now and not necessarily, in 2 years from now or in 3 years from now. What can help us get back to the top right now so we can optimize Stephen Curry's prime?
Assuming Draymond Green re-signs with the Golden State Warriors, did they get better? Are they a better team with Draymond Green and CP3 after this Jordan Poole trade, or were they better yesterday before they made the move?
It's a hard question to answer. Like, I think if you have to assume that Draymond re-signed. If Draymond doesn't re-sign, I don't think they got better. I think it was kind of like for nothing. Does CP3 make them better? It's like, again, it's hard for me to say because the Chris Paul that was with Phoenix, like last year or again in the postseason, I don't know that that's necessarily going to help them.
Right.
But if you can get a Chris Paul maybe from a couple of years ago, like they'll get better. Again, there were instances last season that you guys remember that Jordan Poole turned the ball over. He took an ill-advised shot. The team was like, "What are you doing?" Chris Paul won't do that. So from that respect, they got better. They got a guy who's probably a little bit more sturdy. He's been around. He is, again, like I said before, a trusted floor general. He can take this group of younger guys and calm them down on the floor, something that they were hoping Andre Iguodala would be able to do, but he was just too injured throughout the season. So from that aspect, yes. But then you have those moments, those instances where Jordan was so good, and when Steph was hurt or Clay was hurt and he was able to step up, I don't know if Chris Paul is going to be able to give them that, but that's probably not what they were looking for when they signed him or when they traded for him. So I think, sure, they got better, but I'm not penciling them in to make a really deep playoff run next season. I think there's a lot of room for them to go, and I think the West, again, right now is just at an all-time high throughout the conference.
Have you ever seen The Good, the Bad, the Ugly?
I haven't.
Okay. There's a famous scene where they're all doing the standoff and you don't know who's going to shoot first. And that's kind of how I'm feeling. What do we get first? The Draymond pod, the Bob Myers pod, or the 30 for 30 from Jordan Poole's perspective on what the hell happened in the last year? Like, seriously, who cracks first?
I don't think Jordan Poole's going to say anything.
I can tell you who's going to crack last.
Yeah.
Who's that?
Jordan Poole.
I don't see Jordan Poole ever talking about it, man. I don't think honestly, I gave Jordan Poole a lot of credit for last season. he showed as much maturity as anybody in that organization after what happened. And as for a 23-year-old to handle that situation the way he did, now at the end of the season, he's a little mad about playing time and stuff like that. And I understand that because he felt like he could have helped the team. But I was very impressed with Jordan Poole's maturity. A lot of people could disagree with me all they want to, but Kendra, you covered this team every single day. You travel with the team. Mm-hmm. Jordan Poole not saying anything about the incident. Boy, he's a better man than me.
Right. I mean, he is very, keep it to yourself, keep it to himself, and, has people within his own circle that he can talk to. But in his mindset, like, it's not, what is it going to do to talk about it? And I think that's why a lot of people perceived that it was water under the bridge, because at a certain point, no one wanted to talk about it. And at a certain point, as reporters, you stop asking about it because, again, you weigh risk reward. Okay, what's it going to do? If we all know, if we're all having conversations that we know it's still an issue, what is it going to do by continuing to publicly talk about it and to continue to publicly ask about it? It's really not going to do anything. And as you said, Vontae, at the end of the season, of course, you talk about it because it has been it was the defining moment of their season, and it was the defining moment for Jordan as well. The response to the incident, how it was handled internally and externally, and I always, the way I think about it is, someone who I work with and I'm close with and is supposed to trust hurts me in any kind of way, it's going to be hard for me to, I'm going to go and show up and do my job because I'm a professional, right. But anything beyond that, it's going to be hard to recover because if you have pride, if you're a prideful person, it's hard to move past things like that.
No doubt. Kendra, I know you'll be at Chasing at 2 p.m. when Mike Dunleavy Jr. speaks. The new draft class comes in. Brandon Pajimski and, of course, Trace Jackson Davis. It should be a very interesting offseason for the Golden State Warriors. That is just beginning. Kendra, thank you for waking up with us. Good to have you back on the roast.
Good to see you guys.
Have a good one.
Kendra Andrews here, ESPN, the pride of Gonzaga. Of course, she was my former co-worker in NBC Sports Bay Area, but she was so damn good. She priced herself out and got that bag.